Right now, Iran is closer than ever to building a nuclear weapon. If that happens, everything could change overnight, in the Middle East and far beyond. When people hear that Iran is close to a nuclear weapon, it sounds like a countdown has begun, like something inevitable is about to happen. But that's not exactly what close means. A nuclear weapon isn't built overnight. It's a process, a chain of steps leading to a point of no return. The key part is uranium enrichment. Natural uranium is almost useless. It must be refined to a precise level where it becomes dangerously powerful. And that level is not far from where Iran already is. So when experts say Iran is close, they don't mean the weapon is finished. They mean most of the hardest work is already done. And what's left can happen much faster. Because now the gap between not yet and too late can disappear very quickly. And that entire process depends on one thing: uranium. But not just any uranium, enriched uranium. In its natural state, it's almost useless for a weapon. But once it's processed, its power changes completely. The higher the enrichment level, the more dangerous it becomes. Most countries never go anywhere near weapons grade. But Iran has already pushed far beyond what most ever reach. And once you cross a certain point, everything starts moving faster. Because the hardest part isn't building the weapon. It's getting the material ready. And here's where it gets serious. Iran isn't just enriching uranium. It has already crossed a critical line. Experts measure enrichment in percentages. For civilian use, it stays low. Weapons grade is around 90%. But Iran has reached about 60%. That may not sound close, but it is, because most of the work is already done before that point. The jump from 60% to 90% is much faster than getting there in the first place. And that's why many experts say Iran is now in the danger zone. So how long would it actually take to go from 60% to a nuclear weapon? This is where things become even more alarming. Because once a country reaches this level, the timeline shrinks dramatically. We're no longer talking about years, or even long periods. Some experts say it could take just weeks to produce enough weapons-grade material. Not a finished bomb, but the core ingredient needed to build one. And that changes everything. Because once that material exists, the final steps become much harder to stop. But where is all of this actually happening? Not in plain sight. Much of Iran's nuclear work takes place deep underground, inside heavily protected facilities. These sites are designed to survive attacks, hidden beneath layers of rock and concrete. And that makes them extremely difficult to reach. Because even if the world decides to act, it's not as simple as shutting them down. These locations were built to stay operational, even under pressure. Which means the closer Iran gets, the harder it becomes for anyone to stop what's already in motion. Some of these facilities are no longer a mystery. Names like Natanz and Fordow have been known for years. But what matters is how they are built. Fordow, for example, is buried deep inside a mountain, protected by layers of rock. It was designed to stay hidden and to survive. Natanz is larger, more complex, and central to Iran's enrichment efforts. And even when parts of these sites are exposed, new sections appear. Because this program isn't static, it adapts. Which means tracking it is difficult, and stopping it is even harder. But here's what most people don't realize. At this point, the real question is no longer whether Iran can build a nuclear weapon. Technically, it already can. The knowledge exists. The infrastructure exists. The materials are getting closer to what's needed. What's missing is not capability. It's a decision, a political choice. Because once that decision is made, the timeline can shrink dramatically. And that changes how experts see the situation. This is no longer about possibility. it's about timing. So, if Iran can do it, why hasn't it happened yet? Because crossing that final line comes with serious consequences. The moment Iran officially moves toward a weapon, it risks triggering a direct response from the United States, from Israel, and from other countries watching closely. Sanctions could tighten, pressure could escalate, and the situation could shift into open conflict. So, for now, Iran stays just below that final threshold. Close enough to have leverage, but not far enough to force an immediate reaction. And that balance is extremely fragile. And this is why the entire world is watching so closely. Because if Iran crosses that line, it won't stop with one country. Other nations in the region could feel forced to respond, to build their own deterrent. And that's how a chain reaction begins. One decision leads to another, and suddenly the balance shifts across the entire region. For countries like Israel, this isn't just a political issue. It's seen as an immediate threat. And when multiple sides start preparing for the worst, the risk of miscalculation grows fast. So, what happens if Iran actually crosses that final line? This is where the situation could escalate very quickly. A confirmed move toward a nuclear weapon could trigger immediate responses, not warnings, but actions. Military strikes, rapid escalation, and a conflict that spreads beyond one country. Because at that point, waiting is no longer an option. And once that kind of response begins, controlling it becomes extremely difficult. What starts as a single decision could turn into a much larger crisis. And that's the risk everyone is trying to avoid. And here's the irony. Iran's nuclear program didn't begin as a threat. Decades ago, it was actually supported by the West. The United States helped develop Iran's early nuclear capabilities, long before the relationship collapsed. Back then, it was seen as progress, not danger. But history didn't stay that way. The same foundations that were once encouraged are now viewed as a global risk. And that's what makes this situation so complex. Because what the world is trying to contain today is something it once helped create. So, how close is Iran to a nuclear weapon? Really? Closer than many are comfortable admitting. Not necessarily days away from a finish bomb, but close enough that the timeline can change very quickly. Because at this stage, everything depends on a single decision, one that could shift the situation almost overnight. And that's what makes this so uncertain. The line hasn't been crossed yet, but it's no longer far away. And the closer it gets, the harder it becomes to predict what happens next.